Hello, good morning, welcome. It is Wednesday. Isn't this the greatest day in radio? Isn't that what this is on damn radio? Isn't that what we're led to understand? It's certainly what I am. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down, because I am putting down that we have the biggest day in radio upon us here from the Lake Ozark Real Estate of the Art Studio, coming to you live from damradio.com/live. How do you like that? If you feel the urge to call in, please do. That would be 573-746-8020. Somebody's a little loud in my ear. Oh, it's me. Let's see. We're going to do thusly. Life is good. So I got to thinking, and I know that's a scary concept. And what was I thinking about? I was thinking about Star Trek. I was thinking about, of course, Star Trek. I mean, what else would you think about in your spare time but Star Trek? And the fact is that Star Trek is upon us in many ways. We got robots. Do you remember when, I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan or not, but I like Star Trek. I like the old ones, but somehow I'm a next generation dude. I got all the next generations, you know. I like to, watch them time and time. But I especially, there's a number of favorite characters, but probably one of my favorites is the Commander Data, who in 10 years never got promoted. I don't understand that. But he was Commander Data doing all of his stuff, and he was an android, okay? And in one, I don't remember if it was season number 1 or season number 2, he had sex with a woman. He said that he was fully functional, and certainly functional. So we're even there these days. I think it's the reverse, but people have been buying toys for 100 years. I think so. I don't know. I'm not out purchasing toys, but if I bought one, it'd be a damn robot. And apparently that's a big deal. So technology's upon us. But I didn't bring you on the show to talk about sex robots. I brought you on because technology is getting us, and technology... I reported a few days ago, maybe it was last week, I don't know, on a story coming to us from Canada, from France, from several other countries, and Poland, I think, Germany for sure. They are reinvigorating, restructuring their satellite programs because the U.S. is curtailing the use of data. I said something to you about this the other day. They're curtailing the use of intelligence. So way back when I was a young man in the military, I had I had access to satellite data, to seeing pictures, images of the ground, in foreign countries from our satellites, because we were sending out satellites, right? And all of the pictures that we were taking were pretty much secret. Well, now anybody can get on Google Earth just about anywhere in the world and go and take some things. And there are ways to buy live feed and see what's going on live at particular places. It's private data. Private companies own a lot of these apparatus, a lot of these satellites. Elon Musk has a shit pot of them up there in the atmosphere, passing out internet to people. And the Russians are catching up. The Chinese have been doing it for a long time. There's talk about lasers being up there. And I got to pondering what a wonderful thing it is. We sit and we ponder. I was like, if you go back to your Star Trek, even the first not the first, well, I suppose it was the first with Captain Kirk. He, James Tiberius variety, he had engagements, fights with the Klingons, right? And the Romulans, and both the Klingons and the Romulans had cloaking technology. Now, it was pretty funny when they started making the movies with the young kid who was doing all the new Captain Kirk, who's actually did an awesome job. I like those movies as well. Those showed a new guy, and those people had all sorts of technology that Captain Kirk never had. And or maybe they did have it and they just couldn't show it because our technology was limited. Maybe they aren't really from Earth, but they say they're from Earth, where they began. And so, the Vulcans first discovered the... and that was in a different episode. That was one of the movies where they discovered Earth, and they had to go back in time and save it from the Borg. I mean, that was important. And the technology, maybe that was it. I don't know. I still can't figure it out in the logical frame of mind and how you walk through these very important things that you need to know about a non-existent world. Okay, but at any rate, the technology existed to cloak. And cloaking something means you make it invisible. I mean, Harry Potter's got an invisibility cloak. He can have a cloak of invisibility. And, I don't have one. But the U.S. can make invisible the visual waves. They can do that. Because they just shut off the satellites. And what they do is they say these satellites, you can't, because I reported to you last week that there was some time limit they were putting on it where you couldn't get it automatically. You could only get whatever it was, 10, 20 hours away, right? You could get that. And then now the U.S. is saying that you can only get it several days later. They've engaged in regulation and said that this is critical, that we can't follow troops even 10, 20 hours later. They want to make it several days to give them a window to get out because you're helping the enemy, okay? But understand that there are efforts the other direction. Everybody's doing it, and people are up in arms because Russia and China are selling Iran data. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's the world. We sell all our stuff to Israel. We sell it all over Europe. But the Europeans don't like it because Donald Trump is unstable in a lot of people's views. And so he's blocking it. Hegseth's a interesting fellow. And they who knows what they're going to do next. We're going to Greenland. Get on our helmets and off we go. So anyway, I'm thinking about these sort of who controls the sky. I mean, Elon Musk gets to tell Russia, I'm not going to give you any I don't know what, any access to the internet. So Russia sends up their own internet satellites. China sends up their own. The technology helps, and whoever limits it also helps. But whoever controls the sky controls the truth, okay? And that's the part that, the control of the truth. We only see all the good stuff over here, this stuff, well, according to us, the good stuff. But, oh, geez, we blew up Russian blah, 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 an oil thing. We blew up Iranian this. We killed a train or a bridge, a bridge for a train in Iran. We blocked them off, and now we've got the, I don't know what, the Kurds coming in to fight that battle for us because now we've fought off, or we've separated the two parts of Iran. And by the way, there is no ceasefire. It was a joke anyway. And an hour later, Israel's bombing the crap out of stuff. UAE, somebody bombed something else, and think of the play on this. This is actually a good idea from Donald Trump. I've been accusing the guy of having no strategy. Hegseth, zero strategy. Well, and they didn't think about or maybe they just didn't believe, and they were too dumb to believe the right people. I don't know, but They didn't anticipate the result of the closing of Hormuz. Now they're saying they want to create a new company. Donald Trump, make a nickel off of anything, right? We're going to create a new company. The U.S. with Iran will control it, and then we'll split the money. You know, the only reason to do that is to keep it in dollars and not in yuan. That's it. And for the U.S. to take the money, although we don't even need the Straits of Hormuz, according to Donald Trump. We don't need it. It's not for us. It's for everybody else. He wants to make money off the Europeans, right? And so I'm not so sure. Let's see here. I want to get back to where I was going. So on April 5th, Reuters said that Planet Labs would indefinitely withhold imagery of Iran in surrounding conflict areas after the U.S. government requested it. Okay, well, then why am I seeing them on TV all the time? Reuters also reported that this followed earlier restrictions, including a 14-day delay, and that Planet would move to a managed distribution model, releasing imagery only in limited cases. Reuters reported on March 10th that Planet already expanded its delay from 4 days to 14 for the Middle East to keep adversaries from exploiting it. Okay, so only the U.S. can control it. That gives, everyone a little bit of pause to think, well, this is all great. We want to blow up all these people. This is what we want to do. We can't have people seeing the effects of the nastiness of war. We can't have that. And trust me, this isn't for targeting. They all got that anyway, and they're getting that from different sources. So this isn't for targeting. This is the effects. This is why you can't have it immediately. It's not that stuff. Maybe that botched operation where they actually turned it into the success. I don't believe that they would send over 3 C-130s and several Blackhawks to go and rescue one man. They wouldn't do that. And that there's something else that was a result of there. That's idiotic. An air insertion team isn't a Black Hawk. I've done it. You can go and be only in training, by the way. I never actually got to do it in a wartime situation. I was a Russian interpreter. What the hell are we gonna do? And but at any rate, I did get to do it in be inserted. You're inserted that way, or you're inserted through a UH-1, and you can jump out of that helicopter on a drop 300-400 feet. It's about it on a rappelling line, and I've done that repeatedly. That was a lot of fun. And in fact, I fell out of one time. Saved myself, but I should be dead on numerous occasions, and that was definitely one of them. But the insertion team would have been a hell of a lot smaller than 3 C-130s that could carry upwards of 200 men. BS. There's something else going on, and that failed. Is my thought, and there's a lot of speculation that whatever it was that we're going to go steal their uranium. Remember, I was having questions about that a few days ago. Anyway, the visibility of all of this is only government used to have the God's eye view. I was part of it. The satellite imagery, you couldn't even talk about it. You couldn't even talk about what you saw on the satellite imagery. Nowadays, geez, everybody's got it. You got it in the palm of your hand. And but way back then, that's what it was. Way back then, sending a text message, you wouldn't believe it. I was involved in the very first text messages where, oh my God, we don't have to speak. All we got to do is send a little piece of encrypted data. And you had these little, they were about 1.5 inches thick, but they were a solid, flat cathode ray tube or whatever. They were just green, like and a blinking green light up on the top. And I forget what they were called, but we were experimenting with those. They'd go put us behind enemy lines at the National Training Center and play around with those things and say, we can text you stuff. You can stay radio silent. because all we're doing is sending encrypted data, text message style. Here it is. And we spend billions on that crap. And it's like somebody to send you a text message, where are you? And I'd send one back going, I'm over here. When's breakfast coming? Instead, I'm kidding. But, you could, it was the first text messaging was in the form of these. It was before pagers were really prevalent. Remember people in their damn pagers? Oh, a phone number showed up. I got to run. Everybody's all busy. No, but the government is the one who was in charge of all that and kept all that stuff and took the technology first. Now technology is available to anybody. I'm truly thinking that since Russia has double the number of engineers we do, China has like 10 times as many now, India has so many. In the United States, we put out somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 a year, and there's a steady solid number of those job positions in America that are only in the number of 150,000. I read you something about this a couple of months ago, where we were looking at the engineering. Go out and find one of those, because on YouTube or on any of those places, make sure you believe the sources. But there's a lot of international sources of engineering, and they aren't America. Our schools are crappier. We're like number 30, way down in where the engineering comes from. They don't want our engineers. I mean, they do, but they want the better trained ones are China, India, and Russia. And Iran, too. Iran was pretty high up there. Tell you what, the rest of the world's progressing. Anyway, I say all of that because the exploitation of the satellite imagery is now much more difficult, because France is going to start sending up their own because the U.S. doesn't want to share. Ukraine wants to send up their own. Poland. Think about it. All of these people, because it's an uneven playing field, and they got to kiss the rear end of Pete Hegseth to get anything. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to work with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in the minds of many, many, many international people, go from being unstable, to being completely erratic. Now, unstable is a bad connotation. Erratic, I'm all over that. That guy is erratic as hell. One day we're going to war. The next day it's, I'm praising Allah. What the hell is that? He's off internationally for sure. And there's something strange going on. So if the government is who's in charge of the telescopes, so Washington is trying to put a lid on it until they can destroy a civilization in Iran, right? And they're also trying to do it in other places, but they want to share it with Ukraine so that Ukraine can, bomb Russia, on our behalf. That's how it works. So government, private companies sold the heavens. Elon Musk is selling the heavens by a subscription. So here's your subscription. You can have the internet, and you're going to pay me. What's the little device you buy and you can put on your RV? $500 costs you $3,000 if it's for a business, and then you pay like $150 a month the rest of your life, and you got internet everywhere, as long as Elon Musk keeps it turned on. Or you don't live in Russia. If you live somewhere where he don't like you, then he just, I'm turning it off there. And what he's actually doing is the reverse too. He's giving it to people that the government doesn't want them to have it to, and he's allowing them to. So several countries in Africa, you can't buy an Elon Musk receiver. You can't use one. You can't have one because the government won't allow it. North Korea, other places like that. And so it's a selective who gets to see what. And the same thing is going on with satellite imagery. So I'm saying we're not living in Star Trek yet, but we're kind of a prequel too. We're watching these things, these technologies come to bear right now. And so, we don't have any cloaking devices for the Klingon. We don't have any Federation holodecks where you can get on and create an environment that you can go wander in, since you're stuck on a starship for 5 years mission. And you get to go on this holodeck and create some woods that you can walk through with your, little significant other that you found on the Lido deck or wherever you went to. But we do have commercial eyes in orbit. That we have. We have AI-assisted image analysis, which is often wrong. We have immersive projection systems, humanoid robots, and an intensifying global race over who gets sovereign, their own, access to space-based intelligence. We're even talking about aliens. Some U.S. senator was talking about having some aliens that we already know about. They're among us, and so that's the news today. The science fiction props are definitely are fake, but the underlying political struggle is pretty real. Commercial hologram systems already do exist for entertainment, for advertising, but all they are display technologies. Like, what if? Okay, so we talk about here on Damn Radio, several people talk about flock cameras, the cameras that they put up to detect you, the speeding camera, the this camera, the that. So for several years there was, and there still are, they still exist. They're marginal, whether they work or not. Never have all completely wiped it out, but you could either spray your license plate with some substance that made it invisible to cameras. That doesn't work anymore because camera technology doesn't go the way it used to. When it was a flash technology, it was no problem at all, because the flash would turn it into a white spot and there's no way you could get around it. And so that might work. And they have those covers that you see on these really low-rider cars that, you see it on a lot of cars, but that cover the license plate in some like a blue background or a green background, so that you don't get an image of it. But there's no such thing. There's AI generated imagery that you could potentially shine onto the top of your house, I suppose. Camouflage systems exist that cover entire buildings, but they're a physical piece of equipment, like a military camouflage net. And people are camouflaging those things. They're going underground. They're going into caverns. They're doing something else. And, how do you, will there ever be a cloaking device? With AI, are we able to share those things or shine those things onto the top of our house and have people able to see them? It's, let's see. It's an interesting world in which we live, and I got a text about something, and I was making sure that it's that all is well. So, at any rate, the technology does exist for creating AI imagery or creating camouflage sorts of covers, because what they're doing is they're generating. So there's all kinds of big things that actually work. So, it's not like we're going to buy a cloaking device at Walmart for our car or our license plate or anything like that. But in Star Trek, who gets the advantage of superior sensors? What they're regulating, or what they're attempting to regulate, is access to the data at all, the amount of information that is available, and how accurate it is to what degree. Like, arguably, they say that you can get a pixel size that on the pixels that you go down to, when you go to pixel size, it will be as small as 30 millimeters. I mean, it's a small amount. And so you can get some very serious detail with cameras today. I mean, I remember the technology that we had when I was serving in the military. They alleged that you could read the date off a dime from the orbit of a satellite. So a dime laying in the street, you could read the date off it, is what they were. And it's advanced astronomically since that time. And so, I mean, you know, this... Are we able to buy cloaking devices? I don't know, but there's all kinds of stuff. Delayed image publication, camouflage, deception, putting something else out there, radar signature management, thermal suppression, because remember, you can do a thermal camera too, jamming, spoofing, creating fake tanks and putting them out there, having a cardboard tank, you know. And legal restrictions on who gets the data. So Reuters saying that Planet, was restricting all this on behalf of the Trump administration, is kind of proof of this. The battlefield edge is not only who can see it, it's who can keep others from seeing it. And so that's important. Who owns the sky? In all seriousness, the oldest model was pretty straightforward. Major states owned spy satellites. Nobody else did. Everybody else had to guess. The new model is a hell of a lot messier. The frontier is the sky. Commercial firms sell detailed imagery, and that means journalists, analysts, hedge funds, militaries, and hostile actors can all be looking at the same patch of Earth. That democratization, if you want to call it that, of overhead imagery is what is now being curtailed by the Democratic states, by the Trump administration. And I don't know. I've always been one of those people. I want a level playing field, whether it happens, in T-ball or whether it happens, in global thermonuclear war, with Ferris Bueller, well, he wasn't really Ferris Bueller in that one. He was another guy, but same kid. But at any rate, I always want a level playing field. I suppose I'm completely wrong in that, but I think that hugely unfair wars are crap. There are a lot of people on the planet, including me, that say that you should honor the sovereignty of other nations. Just because you're bigger doesn't give you the right to destroy. That's not how it works, and not how it should work anyway. And I'm wondering here what we have going on. I'm feeling like JR should call me if you're listening, or even if you're not, if this is not working, because I'm not positive it's transmitting. I think it is, but what the hell do I know? Let's see here. Yeah, okay, well, I guess we are. But there you go. So who trusts Washington to give them either accurate data or allow them access to data in a timely fashion? Nobody. Even our allies don't trust us. Except Israel. They get it first. If anything, they get it first. And so I'm sorry. I'm reading a Trumpism right now. His True Social advertising platform. At any rate, everybody owned it before, but now hostile actors can, or if you want to call them that, who's the hostile actor depends on what's happening and who you believe. And I'm a disbeliever, but the playing field is level only until it matters. The state leans on the company. That if the state doesn't want them, that's regulation. So, but who owns the sky above? Used to be that if you, for example, so many, I don't know what the law says anymore, I really don't, but it used to be that, your property is your property, which means the stratosphere above your property, if you could take a straight line from your property line and go straight up in the air 1,000,000 miles, anything inside of that of your property lines all the way up is still your property. It's true going down to the center of the earth as well. But that depends on the country where you live, because some people say it has nothing to do with it. You can't stop somebody from flying a drone over your property. Or can you? What if I wanted to drone your house and see if you had hidden oil reserves underneath with my drone so that I could go and steal them? Or say, hey, I wonder if they got that car they stole from my garage. I believe he stole it. Why don't I just fly over his house with this little drone thing I have, and we'll fly on over there and we'll catch a view of my car in his yard. Or not, because it's under the ground, or it's in a garage, or it's whatever. But who owns the land above, or the sky above your house? Who owns the dirt below? Well, if you drill for oil, you own the oil below too. But what if it's a huge pool of oil? This created all kinds of cool stuff in property law in law school. Because sometimes you have these huge aquifers of water and people are fighting for the water, but one guy builds a well and starts selling it to everybody else, and they're going, but wait, the aquifer goes under my property too. I own the water beneath as well. Yeah, but you didn't build a well. I built the well, and I can charge you for the water coming out of my well, because once it hits my well, it's my water. You want water, build your own well. And otherwise pay me. And it depends on the state, depends on the country, depends on a lot of stuff. And so at any rate, nobody trusts their neighbor anymore to provide them water for free, even though they own part of it. Certainly it's even 10 times worse if it happens to be oil or some valuable mineral that everybody has access to. What if I go underground and discover a stream of gold that runs from my, underneath? I dig a mine in my house, but then I keep going under yours. And there's plenty of gold under yours. Well, you own the gold below your house, but I ain't going to tell you because I'm down in my own mine. Build your own damn mine. And so what if I'm under your house? Well, it matters a lot if the house falls in, but it doesn't matter so much if not. And all I'm doing is stealing your gold. So at any rate, it's if Washington, all these laws develop over time, and let's talk about for something that is so foolish, but it could be fun. Klingon cloaks are definitely fiction, the cloaking device. But real cloaking is bureaucracy. It's electromagnetic. They can stop you from seeing it through collection, jamming. I worked in a collection and jamming platform. So collection would be we would listen to opposing, alleged enemies. We would listen to their traffic on the radio. Set of headphones, you listen to what they're saying. Jamming would be we would prevent them from talking to each other by jamming their signal. Overpowering their signal so much with this big buzz. And it'd go like that, seriously. And when we could push a button and leave it on, walk away and fry their radios because they were that powerful. There's a story at Fort Hood of way back when we were doing it. And Fort Hood is outside of Killeen, Texas. And there's a story that allegedly was in our unit, although I certainly don't recall it. I know we got chastised once or twice for it, because we had these big jammers that would, seriously, we had 20 times the power of a local radio station. In a local radio, we blew them off the air. Intentionally, not intentionally, whatever. But they were gone, and it would fry their transmitters. Now, I don't know the actual stuff, but I do know that there were times when they would come down and say, "Are you guys jamming again? Are you on the?" Because they would have frequency bleed, and it would take out certainly the AMs and the FMs too. And I learned a little bit about how that worked, and it was like, wow, these people people. Just the fact that that there's straight line modulation and then there's up and down modulation. And hell, if I knew the difference, all I knew is if we push the button, we could knock people off the air. And so this technology stuff, radar is still a big deal. Everybody wants their radar thing, but everybody is decoying, camouflage, object detection, evasion systems, but they don't have true invisibility yet. But you can make machines hesitate, misclassify, misread, not see the same. And so the radar, NASA explains that synthetic aperture radar is designed to generate fine resolution imagery from radar while orbiting. An industry emphasizes the practical consequence of this. These systems, synthetic aperture radar, SAR, work at night, through the clouds, through the smoke. Saab, discussing the satellite threat from a defense perspective, talks about camouflage solutions aimed at defeating SAR satellites. This tells you two things at once. The threat is real, but nobody seriously believes a simple visual trick is enough anymore. They're trying to figure out how to jam a satellite. Okay, now allegedly there's going to be satellite warfare. I read an article a little bit, maybe I don't know, within the last year. I read this that allegedly the Russians and Chinese have laser style satellites that can fire a laser from orbit, either to hit another satellite orbiting, take it out, or to take out something on the ground with a laser. Now, I've seen, and you don't know if it's AI generated or what. You really don't know that. But I've seen some drones that allegedly can destroy another drone or a piece of equipment with laser. And I saw some on YouTube or on Telegram or something that would fly up and in Ukraine use this laser to hit something. Well, a laser, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm no technical guru when it comes to this, but if a laser is shot, that laser line continues forever, does it not? It may weaken over time, but if you're able to target something with a laser and you hit the drone or whatever it is you're taking out, wouldn't the laser continue after that? And you hit that. What if that is a what if there's a house behind the drone and there's a baby sleeping in a bed and your laser takes out the drone, woo, and then goes through the window or through the house? It's a laser, burns a straight line, and there it goes, like in the science fiction movies. Is that what we're talking about? And what if I assume that in a straight line in space that a laser is not going to go around the curvature of the Earth? I would presume that it can't, that it's going to go straight forever. So would that laser then hit, another planet so far away? Who knows? So I don't understand all those things about laser technology, obviously, but I've seen some of this stuff out, and technology is really getting us. So we cannot buy any holodeck emitters that'll hide our ranch house from orbit. We still can dig a huge underground bunker that we can live in. But militaries and engineers are working on ways, even now, and some of them already exist, to confuse, degrade, or outsmart what satellites and or the algorithms that run them can effectively see. So I don't know. I was just interested in this because of the ability to block people from taking things. We have increasingly sophisticated immersive projection, holograph style display, and mixed reality. I mean, everybody's buying these glasses. There was a pair of glasses, I forget what it's called, Google glasses, Google something. Maybe it wasn't Google, but there are these glasses that you can buy for $300. Is the ones I saw, and who knows? I assume that the more money you spend, the better. But it is an AI pair of glasses. Now, get this. The AI glasses, one of the shows that they were, not shows, one of the commercials they were having was that a guy with his Google glasses was riding a bicycle. And as he was riding his bicycle, and now imagine this. I like riding the Katy Trail. I'm thinking of doing it this weekend, going up and plugging away. I really want to buy a new bicycle, and I might make the plunge. But anyway, if this guy's riding his bicycle down a trail, and as he's going down the trail, the AI is identifying, for example, oh, look at that tree on the left-hand side there. That's an elm tree, and you can tell the distinctive lights. And this thing is giving you, as you go, information. If you listen to your AI on your satellite radio anymore in your car, or you're using Google Maps or whatever, you will get police are reported up ahead. There's an object in the highway. There's a guy pulled over. Avoid this route. Go through all of these things, and those are instant access to information. And it says, is the policeman still there? And, click yes, or, because it's on your screen, right? And or no, he's gone. Click that. Or there's an accident. Is it cleared out? So people are having sort of real-time data like this. And all of these things are no longer, well, first of all, they're no longer government. I mean, way back when, Sam and his text messaging device in the late 80s and mid 80s was, very novel. And having the ability to do that, where it was more than just a phone number that was entered in, or beep beep beep, didn't tell you what you had to. You just knew you had to call the person who sent you the beep, and before telephones, and or check your messages, call in and have your messenger. But now everybody's involved, so there's a place. These virtual production environments where they're creating fake, missiles and showing them all over the place. And you fool the technology, or maybe you can fool the technology. It's, all these holographic style displays for 3D depth effects. There's something called hypervision markets. They have a large format 3D display system and a projection mapped immersive environment, already routine in the entertainment industry. And that's not the USS Enterprise, but it's the same human impulse. Build a convincing synthetic environment and let people step inside of it. I've been having there's a desire I have, but I haven't been able to pull the trigger. I might, because I still want one. I'm going to build a sauna first, but I think I want, in fact, I know I want one of those Peloton bicycles that has the huge screen on it. There was one that I used years ago on a regular basis in some workout facility or other, that you could pick a trail that the bike, the tensions would adjust as you rode. And it was really pretty cool. So you could go on a bike ride without leaving your house. And, that's, I don't remember what they cost. It was $6,000-$7,000. I think they've come down since then. But, the equal use of time and money was like, no, not 7,000. Would I spend 2,500? Maybe, but that depends on how long it lasts. But that kind of crap never lasts, or the technology is totally different in a couple of years, and you no longer want it. So I just still have my regular old exercise bike, and that's it, with nothing cool on it. But you can also take your screen on your tablet or your phone and create the same effect with that, and some of them connect to your, like you connect your iPad to your bicycle machine. Schwinn makes a bunch of those, and so do other people. But I've researched them a little bit. But anyway, we're nowhere near a Zoom, a scale of interactivity, anything like that to build a convincing synthetic environment that is totally real, that could generate full physical trails, detective stories, like Shakespeare. Do you remember on Star Trek when Data fought Professor Moriarty? That was a lot of fun. But we are already in the world of synthetic presence. We are there. We're in the world of data and sexual robots. We don't have data yet. Who's going to live, but you wonder about these robots. I want to go to China. I'm trying to get to India this year for the BRICS conference coming up. It's in October. And I'm very much interested in that because this is the third time that India has hosted the conference. Their web pages are looking pretty good. I'm trying to figure out the approval processes even now. And I've never been to India. I think next year it's in China, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm going to keep track of the BRICS. I never got to Brazil last year, and it still pisses me off. I forget what was going on, but the timing was off. Family issue of some sort, but it was pain in the ass. But we have the first drafts. Robots are there. There's I don't know about wisdom. I don't know if Data has the brains of Data, but allegedly, men in China and Japan are buying these female robots and avoiding the relationship altogether. You just find yourself a yes woman and move on. And that's what they're doing. So who can tell? So the Planet Labs place, the heavens are no longer fully open to the public because of wartime. Star Trek, we got 50 years of science fiction that told us whoever controls the sensors and cloaking devices controls the battlefield, right? So we knew that already because I served in that area of training, and I know about it. But today, countries are building their own sovereign constellations of satellites because they don't depend, or they can't, refuse to depend on Washington's goodwill any longer. Private firms are leaned on by the U.S. government, and real cloaking race isn't fake. It's not magic invisibility, but hiding from optical sensors, from radar, and from AI. So whether or not the future belongs to those who can see everything, or those who can hide everything, or those who decide who gets to see everything or the things that they have hidden. Every one of these is a current report. Remember, satellite imagery felt like only the CIA and a handful of people like me with the right clearance could see it. Well, that world is gone. Commercial companies have the sky, for sale. They're selling you the sky. Well, why do they own the sky? That's another, why? Because they took the chance to harness the sky. We have people planning to go to the moon and harness the moon and steal all the crap up there before the rest of us get a chance. Well, maybe that's something we all need to be, very appreciative of. But what the hell? Is it going to be a private company? Is it going to be some kind on behalf of the world, or just on behalf of a few? It's always going to be just a few who have the most money. Let's see here. Well, let's see. I have a caller online. Would you have something to add?
Hey, do you suppose the strait is open?
No, it won't be open to any of the people bombing the crap out of Lebanon or Hezbollah, like Israel. They're not going to get out. And if the UAE is still in there and still bombing, which they were yesterday, because yesterday, right after the alleged ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, Israel said, well, it doesn't count for us. We're bombing everybody anyway. Right. And then all the other people in the area started bombing back and forth, and everybody's still burning. So are we... I never took it seriously
So,
yesterday. But maybe, my thought on this is that maybe this is Donald Trump's exit. And he can say, well, I tried, and we're no longer involved, and the U.S. is out. No, I don't believe that. Not yet. But if he's going to get out, it's the only reasonable way to get out would be to have all these allies and people and have the U.S. go, no, we're the reasonable ones. We stepped away, and they still hate Iran, so they're still bombing them with our stuff, just like Ukraine is bombing Russia with our stuff.
I don't understand how you can claim a victory when everybody's still shooting but us.
Well, but the worst part of it is not this. You start a war when the strait was already open, knowing that these people could close the strait, or if you didn't know, you should have known. And then you say, yay, we opened the Straits of Hormuz. Woohoo, aren't we great? No, you're not. You're a bunch of morons because it was already open until you started a war.
Have you ever watched those? I guess he's just a spokesman for the IRCG. That real militant dude.
Oh yeah. They have those translated into English, and they're pretty funny because every third sentence is praise be to God. But you know what? I have met Arabic people who do talk that way, and they talk. They not. They do praise God a lot. Let's put that. But I've met Americans who do the same thing. Every 10th sentence is something about God says this and all of that. And more power to them. You have your beliefs, I have mine, and I would never dictate what yours should be. But I have watched that guy, and he's the head of the IRCG at this point, right?
What I was going to say is he'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. You was talking about you should know the strait's going to close. The man spells out their game plan. He says it's starting in 24 hours if they keep on, and then then they start up. They're on wave. It's day 40 or 41. And
no, it's more than that. I forget the day. Here we are on day on day, because it was February 28 when it started. Well, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Here's the day, and here's what we're sending out. Yeah.
Anyway, when the treaty was supposed to, or the ceasefire was supposed to be happening, they were on wave 100. And they hit that Saudi Arabia facility. They hit 13 oil facilities in the area. They went to. They've been threatening going to hit oil infrastructure, and they did.
Yeah, I know. And they keep telling them. They say they're doing it so that get your civilians, get your workers, get out of this factory because we are coming. And they're pretty standard about it, and they say what they're doing. And frankly, nobody can stop them. They've gone after our if anything. And I've always been, a patriot. I believe in America. I believe in all that stuff. I also believe the lies, like everybody else did, that our patriots and our air defense are superior to anyone else's and can stop all of these missiles. They can't anymore. And when you're spending $1.5 million or whatever it is to fire a Patriot at 10 $5,000 drones, you got $1.5 million versus 50,000. Who the hell's going to win? And which one does the Patriot missile have to pick out to blow up? And so just the sheer volume of these are defeating this so-called Iron Dome, all of these other things. The technology doesn't exist to stop them all. You may get a majority of them, but there's the numbers that I've been following since the Ukraine war started in earnest in 2022, where there were actually Russia defending the people that Ukraine's been bombing since 2014. Those I've been following, and it's about 8 to 10% of all missiles, all drones that if not more, but at least that many go through. And every day, Russia is firing 2,000, so 20 of them are getting through. Every day, 200. And every day, Ukraine is firing back 150, 200 themselves. And it's just, your air defense can't keep up with it. You just can't.
Well, with your talk about the radar and the deception and stuff, it's crazy. How's anybody going to trust our leader when they're on there saying, "Oh, we got them pretty much wrapped up," and Haifa. They pretty much left the people of Haifa on their own.
Yeah, I know, and I've seen all of those, and don't accuse me of trusting our government. I do not, and I don't believe. I believe maybe, just like the drones, I believe about 10% of what is being put out about the Middle East right now. I wouldn't want to be there right now, but I'm telling you, I don't believe any of it. Do I what?
Do you think it's good policy? Do you think it's good policy for our president and the war secretary to come on the air and go, "Oh yeah, we're killing them," when people are going to find out? You know, like you said about that botched mission for the uranium. You know,
there's a lot of people saying that.
That weapons systems officer made it 100 miles all fucked up through the desert and climbed the mountain in a day.
Right. Yeah. I can go 100 miles in a day on my bicycle, but, you know, the rest of it, I doubt I'm riding a bicycle through the mountains of Iran. Let's put it that way.
Well, they need to tell better stories. I mean, it's embarrassing that they come out and say, "Oh, we're smoking them." It's like, man, get a damn TV, dude. You know, JR believes it. I tried to call him yesterday, and he wouldn't take a phone call because he knew I was going to tell him them.
Yeah, but Jim, you bring some of that upon yourself, though, and I you know, you remain calm, remain nice, and don't beat up on everybody and call them, you know, and be offensive. I'll keep talking to you, no problem. And you know, if you took that approach more than just getting on and calling everybody stupid, you know that. And I'm not saying you do that anymore, but you've not. You know, I don't always take your call. You know that.
Yeah, well, I just think that's one thing for him to. I mean,
well, I think he's wrong too. He and I argue about it all the time. JR and I argue about this. I enjoy arguing with JR about this because he is solid. He believes it all. I don't believe 10% of it. You know, most of it is just crap.
He doesn't believe it all either, or he would have looked it up yesterday when I.
Well, he doesn't believe it all anyway. I've exaggerated that a little bit, but he leans toward belief. And believes towards a larger picture that someone is in charge of and keeping track of. I do not. I think it's the blind leading the blind, especially in Iran. That's what in the war, you know, whatever they're doing there, and they made some huge mistakes in the very beginning. I believe along the lines of multiple professional, political, and very world savvy people. I don't believe the so-called experts in the Pentagon because I've been there. Those people say what they're paid to say. They justify anything. So because they get paid to justify it. I could hire an expert to say anything. I've done it as a lawyer. You could if I need an expert to say that you were injured because mom dropped you on your head when you were 2, then I'll find an expert to say, yeah, that's pretty likely. Or I'll find another one and say, oh, no, that was something else. It would never happen because of that. And then you have the war of the experts. It's the exact same damn thing in the Pentagon. They just pay people to say what they want them to say so that they can tell the public that this is what it is. And it's all bullshit. It's not right.
They tried to purge the experts. Pretty much, it's all Fox hosts now.
Well, but they're not experts anyway. If they're paid for their opinion, then they cannot be. I mean, they have to. You have to get somebody who has the education to say something. The problem is the people that they're relying on do not have that background. And they do not understand the world except from a transactional sphere. And fine, I wouldn't want to go against them in a meeting to buy a power plant, but in a meeting to sit or to build a building, but to sit down with these yahoos and try to negotiate the terms of an agreement between Iraq, between Iran, between Israel, anybody, pick it, Ukraine and Russia, these people are morons. We've seen who's been running this, and it's all the stupidest people that have no idea what they are talking about, including the Lindsey Grahams of the world, who are so twisted that all they are is selling more and more weapons and more war, and might makes right. That's it. It's a bad world we live in.
Hey, let me get one more in. What do you think about a state university? When I listen to all these shows, people go, "Oh, you don't know who to trust. You can't trust them. You can't trust medicine. You can't trust science." Wouldn't it be nice to have state-run universities where you had research labs and kids that were smart enough to know a little bit about something?
Everything's politicized when you do that. Now, and by the way, so one of the things that I've loved to do, and Russia has one. I've talked about it on this show before. They have a politically guided, and it's all about politics, and it's all about the whole school is the School of International Affairs, and we have similar programs like, I could name some, whatever institute inside the University of whatever, inside Harvard University has an international program or whatever, and you can find these. But these are sponsored by the government. Well, right, they're all lunatics. They all depend, and the people who run them are guided by the exact same thing. They have to have the right philosophy, or the board of curators of whatever university will boot them out and go, nope, you're teaching, you're not teaching, gay rights. You got to go, or vice versa.
If you have 50 states, you have 50 different universities.
Well, you know what? I'm not a federalist. I like the state part, except when it comes to education, history, to licensing. In fact, I believe that licensing in just a state, like if you go to Russia is a lot bigger than us, and you get a license to, I don't know, sell fertilizer. That license, you can sell fertilizer anywhere inside of Russia. Here in America, your fertilizer, you can sell it only and I'm making that one up, but I'm just picking a license. You can, I have to be a real estate broker. I'm a broker in Missouri and I'm a broker in Florida. Why, if I'm a property broker, why can't I do it? Do you know what I did in law school? I took a class on property, and I understand the issues in property because of I had a law license. Now, the trouble is, you can only get a law license in one state, and Missouri right now is refusing. Now, I can't get a license in any other state because Missouri screwed me, but that doesn't mean I can go to another state and get one. And that's crazy. It makes no sense to me at all, because here they're corrupt, they're wrong, then they have a system that is backwards and screwed up, and I talk about it all the time. And but I'm right. But why can't I then go somewhere else and get a license? It's complete crap, because I have a couple of bureaucrats who hate me. That's it. You're echoing in your thing here.
Well, all right, ma'am. I appreciate your time. I'm gonna let you go. You're on that.
I'm on a roll, huh? Yep. I'll see you later. All right. Well, that was a nice caller. Thank you for being kind and not just beating up on people. I like that. So I will take your calls more often if you like. Well, Star Trek gave us cloaking devices. Washington gives us delayed imagery release, a customer service email, to complain, if you'd like to whoever, the CIA, whoever you want. The playing field is level only until it gets serious. Only until we want to steal your oil. We're going to Iran. We're going to steal your oil. Trump's going to take over the Straits of Hormuz and call it the Straits of Trump, but they'll spell it with a G and an H, which is crazy. And, You can't hide your cousin in the shed in orbit, with a holographic projector, from Amazon or Temu. You can't do that, unfortunately. So, and even if he does hide in your shed, they're going to see him from above anyway because they have heat sensors and they can show that your cousin is in there. Well, not exactly your cousin, but pretty soon we'll all have chips in us that can identify where we are on the planet anyway, right? So the holodeck doesn't exist yet, but you can buy a pair of glasses that you can pretend that you see those videos you can watch on YouTube or wherever on Telegram, and you can see these people that start boxing. You remember getting the boxing thing with your Wii way back when, and you were doing boxing with these people beating up their TV with these glasses on because they don't know where they are because the glasses lead them astray, and that's where they live in. I don't know. I'm not sure I want to go too far into the Israel and Iran and the air defense and the Straits of Hormuz because it's what they're doing on these satellites and AI detection and everything like that. I told you about the submarines underneath the mini subs that Iran has. And whatever number it was, 10, 20 of them, can't remember. Wasn't a huge amount. But those aren't gone. Apparently, they can't be tracked. And so those little mini subs are still cruising around in the Straits of Hormuz. And they're mine layers. They can lay these mines. And so if they have a map of where they are, then, and people find out where those are, I'm interested in these intelligent sorts of things and how they hide stuff and where I still would prefer a level playing field. I'm anti-war in general. This is all a bunch of, you realize the people dying aren't the people that should be. People dying ought to be the ones declaring war in the first place. Those are the people that ought to be there. If you want to fight, do it yourself. Quit sending other people to die for your false ideology crap. Democracy. We got to put democracy. Oh, my ass. We don't have democracy. We have bureaucracy. That's what we have. And so it's irritating to me. But that was pretty much where I wanted to go. I thought that was a fun topic. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I was looking at something like one of these restrictive things, going, "Who in the hell's in charge of that?" This is nuts. How come Elon Musk gets to decide that I get internet or I don't? And if Trump says no, you're not going to get it, but he'll give it to Ukraine, who are a bunch of they're murderous of Russians. Well, what difference does it make? If you're going to murder people, have a level playing field. Let everybody murder each other. You make it fair, killing at least. Let's have fair killing, fair war, right? That's what the Geneva Convention is supposed to give. War crimes include blowing up infrastructure and bridges just to blow up infrastructure and bridges, blowing up salinization plants, blowing up or desalinization, and blowing up oil fields, blowing up energy facilities, so that we're going to blast you back in the Stone Age. That is a war crime. That's what we're going to do, and we just flat out say it. And it doesn't, like my Nubenzia discussion yesterday. We're openly saying we're going to destroy a culture. We're going to destroy it. We don't like your culture. Therefore, we're going to destroy it. But the other part of the culture, who do what we say, kiss our rear ends in the Middle East, those people, will decide that their culture, which is basically the same as your culture, that's a religion. Yours is not a religion. Nonsense. And by the way, that there's a dispute on that as well. You think there aren't extremists on all sides? There just are. They're Christian extremists. I disagree with polygamy. I disagree with it. However, I'd never tell anybody that if that was their desire. I'm totally against it. I think it's BS. Hell, I could barely put up with one, and let alone a million of them or a pile of them. I'd tell you a story about that, but I won't. because something interesting on that regard happened whilst I was in Qatar, and it was a very interesting period of time working with that gentleman. Now I have to tell you, no, it had to do with polygamy and getting another wife, and what they were going to do and the political ramifications thereof inside of Qatar and stuff like that. It was entertaining, if nothing else, and a good learning experience, but not for sharing on a mass level, except that's what it was. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about this alleged pause in warfare. Yeah, right. Let's see. The rhetoric of Donald Trump, who threatens a whole civilization is going to die tonight, is suddenly de-escalation. By the end of the 7th, it was announced that the U.S. and Iran had agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. Shortly afterward, Israel said it would join. Over those 2 weeks, starting this Friday, negotiations toward a permanent peace deal will be held in Pakistan, with Pakistan acting as the mediator. This is exactly the scenario that was listed as being the most likely from the very beginning of the conflict. And this was grinding stalemate, strategic failure. The strategy mirrors America's earlier operation in Venezuela. Eliminate the country's leadership. There it was through theft, stealing, abduction of the leader, or direct assassination in Iran. And then effectively the surrender of the new regime, which is forced to accept terms set by the attackers. So it's uncertain how long Iran could hold out, but the plan failed. Despite the hints, Washington's new leadership also refused to engage in negotiation. Iran withstood the initial blow. They have external support from China and Russia. There have been no public statements, but something is happening. So those things all did occur. But the war will resume. Hell, it already has. It didn't last 2 hours, the ceasefire. But they are moving toward a reality where the Gulf is becoming more Persian. Iran effectively controls the shipping in the Gulf and holds the Arab oil monarchies at risk. And the U.S. seems to be accepting that. Now, the people who are not are the UAE and are certainly not Israel, because they won't let it stop. Let's assume that even if the hostilities last months or years, even if no formal deal materializes, the ceasefire will just be extended over and over again. I talked to you before about ceasefires are complete crap anyway, and it's just it never ends, and it will never end. Even if it does end, they're going to have it. Let's say it does end. They'll wait another year and do the exact same thing. This is what's going to happen. So the Arab states are going to be building a new generation of air defense for sure. And so the blueprint is rely on cheap, mass-produced interceptors, such as Russia's Panzer, or air-launched. Both Arab states and Israel will focus on this because they got the crap kicked out of them by Iranian missiles. The second priority is going to be diversification of logistics, new pipelines to the Red Sea to find alternatives to the Gulf shipping routes. The goal, break free of the Straits of Hormuz chokehold and reduce Iran's leverage. So for countries like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, pipelines across the Arabian Peninsula would mean dependence on another regional power, Saudi Arabia. And transit fees, because Saudi Arabia certainly wouldn't do it for free, right? But none of this solves the core problem. The geography in the Gulf makes full protection impossible. There's more than 500 nautical miles out of an old, Think about it. It's narrow. It's like an old arcade game. Imagine Galaga. Every shipping lane within Iran's reach, along the coastline, ports, factories, desalination plants, oil storage facilities, data centers, hotels, skyscrapers are exposed targets. Defending all of that from the sea is extremely difficult. And right now, the Arab states are going to choose to pay for safe passage. So at the end of the day, they don't really care who provides the security. They used to pay the U.S. I mean, what difference does it make if they pay Iran? They're paying the U.S. to secure them, right? But the U.S. isn't securing them, right? These are things to think about. The price isn't even steep, about $2 million per super tanker, which is only 2 to 3% of the value of the oil on board. Anyway, the buyers who are buying it are going to be the ones who foot the bill in the first place. So, I don't know. The second scenario, new escalation, it's already happening, or low-level clashes under Iranian control of Hormuz. You'll still have those, I think. And we may go further into that. So, we shall see. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's a little short today, but that's all right. I'm Samuel Trapp. Please join me again tomorrow. Today's the longest day in radio. Everything is wondrous. And listen to us on internationalflavor.com or go to damradio.com/podcast to hear all the prior shows, or go to go to damradio.com/live to listen live, or damradio.com/schedule to hear all the schedule of the other talk shows on this channel. Thank you so very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.